Hello, good evening and welcome to Hidden Existence. I've got a great show tonight. I've got a great guest tonight, Alan Thomas, a man who holds much knowledge of many subjects under the paranormal umbrella, Bigfoot, aliens, cryptids. I'm sure there's more to add. And I know you've got a huge list of things that you've been doing and you've done. So welcome, Alan.
Why, thank you. It's good to be here, Daniela. I've been looking forward to it, at least with one eye.
Yeah, I'm glad you can at least see out of one. And
yeah,
at least let the other one recover a little bit. You can just do it with one eye. So, Alan, let's start with what you've been doing. Your main interests, I guess.
Well, Bigfoot is like my main one. That's what I started with. In 1987, I watched one for almost 2 hours. I would say right at 2 hours, but I don't know exactly. All I know is about the time of when we parked to go deer hunting. And then when we watched it until the sun came up, and I know that had to be about 2 hours.
Wow.
And it rocked my world. I didn't even go to the mountains again for 6 years. I haven't hunted since, at least not deer hunting or any kind of hunting. Now I hunt the paranormal, the aliens, the UFOs, the ghosts. And I don't even think they're really ghosts, but that's a long story. I don't even think aliens are really aliens. And I'm starting to wonder about Bigfoot, to tell you the truth.
We could get into that. But tell me a little bit about your encounter.
Well, it was at first I thought it was a guy, and it was dark and all, and he was on top of this mountain, and we were going to walk over the mountain. On the other side of the mountain there was a high mountain lake, no roads to it. It was probably 1.5 miles or 2 mile hike, and we parked there really early because we wanted to walk over the mountain and get there right before the sun came up, and sit down, find a place to sit down where we could see a lot of area. And we hoped there was a big giant buck or something in there. And no sooner did we park, I don't even think it was 5 minutes, I see a bush shaking up on the hill, and all I can see is a butt and a back. And I thought it was a bear, and I had bear tags, and I was getting all excited, that I was going to get my first bear. I actually had bought a rifle for it. It was a Weatherby 300 Magnum, and I spent $1,000, or no, it was about $1,200 on the rifle, and then I put another $500 in scopes and stuff, and I reload all my own ammunition. So I had spent a lot of time getting prepared for this bear. So I was really getting excited, and then the bear stood up. And it was a guy. It was like, how did that guy get there? I mean, we were parked. It was about a 3 mile road from the main road, and it went to a trailhead to that lake, and it dead ended right there at the trailhead. And we parked right at the turnoff to that little road. And it was like, how did he get there? We've been there 9 days, so he had to get there before our 9 days. What is he doing? He doesn't have a light. He doesn't have a gun. He doesn't have anything in his hands. Like, what an idiot, dressed in black. If I was like a new hunter, somebody that was like their first year or so, I would have shot him when he was in the bush. But I know better I want to make sure I shoot what I shoot. So I would have shot him in the bush, but I was like, I got to make sure that it's a bear. It's a good thing he stood up, really good thing, because I was antsy. I almost shot him, and then I almost shot him again when I watched him walk down the mountain, and he was walking right for us, and he got about 50 yards away. And by then we had already realized this is not a man. It is something huge, dressed, all fur, black fur, like a black lab, real short hair, real shiny and well kept. The only thing that had any skin was right around his eyes. It reminded me of like if somebody had a diving mask on, you know, it was that shape.
A bit like Patty, I guess. Patty's a little bit the Patterson.
Yeah, it almost looked identical to the Patterson, really, except for she was bigger in the hips. This thing had more narrow hips, and he was bigger in the shoulders, and in his arms, I would say they were like almost 2 feet. His biceps are almost 2 feet.
Wow.
You know, the side profile of it, they're almost 2 feet, if not over. And he was about 12 feet or better. He was really tall. And, you know, I almost shot him. He took off running, and I was thinking it was a monster. You know, I'm like, oh my God, I've been living up here. I lived in Yosemite National Park growing up. And so I've been in the mountains all my life, and there's a lot of stuff that happened to me in the mountains. And I didn't know what it was that did it. And now I'm looking at what I think did all these strange things, you know, like when you're fishing in the creek and all of a sudden a boulder lands in the creek, you know, and you're like, did that just roll off the side? You know, I mean, there's all these weird things, or you're hiking along and all of a sudden you are so scared you want to run, you know, and sometimes you do, you'll run for like 3 miles of that. You'll stop and go, you don't know why you're running, you know, you look around, nothing's happening, you know, it's like, man, that felt stupid. I'm glad nobody's watching, you know, because I just ran 3 miles fast as I could. But now I'm looking at what it is, I think, that was doing those things. And when I went to track it, the footprints are 15 feet apart.
Wow.
I mean, he was a monster. And in fact, talking about Patty, there was no cell phones in 1987. So when I got into town, the first phone I could find, I stopped and called my wife, and I was telling her, I saw Bigfoot, you know, I saw Bigfoot, and she thought I was crazy. And then I got home, and I'm carrying all my gear in, and the kids open the door, and the news is doing a news article on the Patterson Gimlin film. And there goes Patty walking across the screen.
Wow.
And she did that turn and look like that. And I lost it, man. I threw all my stuff, and I'm like, there it goes, there it goes. All the kids are all looking at me like, oh my God, Dad's really had it, you know. Something's wrong with him, you know. And then that's it, you know. I couldn't go in the mountains. I couldn't relax anymore. I couldn't sleep on a rock or lay in the shade and take a nap. I couldn't think of even taking my kids camping and not letting them out of my sight 5 feet, you know. It just scared me so bad for that. And then I got in this career where I worked 14 hours a day, 6 days a week. Even though I lived in the foothills, I raised my kids out of the city in the foothills. I thought I was safe right there. I wasn't way up in the mountains, you know, I was down in the foothills. So I just had to worry about mountain lions and stuff. If only I knew what I know now, geez, you know.
They're everywhere.
Yeah, they are everywhere. They're even down here. Now I live in the valley, and they're in the valley. I've been chasing them for probably 5 years in the valley along the river systems and canals and stuff. So they're ninjas. They're like forest ninjas. And after I got hurt by a doctor and retired medically, and then I got myself walking again, and then I thought, I wonder if anyone else saw a Bigfoot. You know, and I went looking for people that had seen a Bigfoot. I did not know. Yeah, this is like year 2000. And I worked so much. I didn't watch the news. I didn't really surf the internet or anything, just work and take care of kids. And I found these guys, and then we teamed up and we started going everywhere. And that led to finding Bigfoot and Monsters and Mysteries and chasing UFOs. I mean, the show chasing UFOs. I worked for Animal Planet. I worked for Nat Geo. And when they would come in town. And I mean, it just led to all these really cool things, like a second career. My first life was casino executive. My second life is paranormal guy, chasing things around and having a good time.
Things can around, isn't it, out of something, an interest.
Yeah.
And just going back to what you're saying about the woods, it's such a shame that anybody who appreciates going out in the woods and loves to be out in nature, it must be such a shame for those who don't feel like they can go back out there again. It's such a loss, really, isn't it?
That's actually how I tell if somebody's lying to me and not about if they saw a Bigfoot. Because if I mean, they go in the woods and everything, but if they make things like they don't like being in a tent, like I call the tent a sack lunch, because what I saw could have grabbed the tent with 3 guys in it and ran off with it easy, right? So I mean, I don't like sleeping in sack lunches. I still do though, but because I can't afford RV. But when they start saying things like that, and you can see it in their face and you could hear it in their voice, that when they start talking about it, it changed their life forever. And if somebody tells you that they saw a Bigfoot and they go out and sleep under a rock, or on a rock under a tree or something, and just relax, they're lying, and they didn't see no Bigfoot. I'll tell you right now, they did not. Because monsters running around makes you not comfortable. At least it does for me.
What's your feeling? So you're saying now your feeling about Bigfoot has changed. Is that based on things that the encounters that you're hearing and the different kind of experiences people are having?
Not really on other people's experience. This is from my own experience. We as a team, we go out all summer long, and then in the winter, I go out more than ever. I go out by myself more, or on the weekends with some of the guys, and we go to the areas where we know they live. And we've been roared at. We've had rocks thrown at us. They come in our tent. One guy, one of our team guys, was sleeping, and me and the other guy could hear the 2 walking up, and it sounded like a male and a female, and it knuckle popped our friend. He had his face right next to the tent and was sleeping, and he's the more obnoxious one sometimes, and I don't know if the Bigfoot, maybe when they're roaring because we have him with us. It never happens when, he's not with us, but it knuckle popped him and knocked him right off his cot. But they do things like disappear right when you're looking at them, and they move unnaturally fast, like go straight up a hill that it would take us ropes to climb up. It'll go straight up, and it'll go all the way to the top where it would take you hours to go up. It'll go up in seconds and be gone like a ninja. And then their eyes glow. They can change the color of the glow in their eyes. One night I think it was last Memorial Day, we set up some microphones outside of the tent, and we had a battery operated mixer board, and then we were running the audio into a cell phone, and we were recording what we were hearing. And we've been doing that for a while now, and we have some great audio from it. But that night, I was playing around with one of those little battery or solar powered little lights you can stick, on something, and when you walk by, it'll motion sense and turn on. Well, I was playing around with it all day to make sure that it worked, and go on and off and all that, and it was all solar powered, charged up, and we had a table right next and an awning over. We put one of those little 10 by 10 awnings in front of the tent, and then we were setting everything, the microphones and everything on the table right there, our cooking stuff. So I set that little light right there. And then when we were going into the tent, we set it off and it turned on. And then where the wires go out of the tent, we had a little thing about that big that you can look out and see the table and everything. Well, the light never went off. It stayed on. And he's like telling me, what, your stupid light, it's staying on. And I told him, it worked all day, and then and we're wearing headphones like this. And then all of a sudden we hearing the steps. It's there and it's stepping around. It lift up the ice chest lid and shut it. It moves some stuff on the table. And then it grabbed the microphone. You could hear it. And it would take a step, and we're like, oh, it's out there, and went and looked out the little peeky hole because the light's on and the microphones, I could see them, nothing there, even though I could still hear it in here in the headphones. And then he tried looking, he's like, get out of the way, he couldn't see anything either, but there was tracks all over the next morning, and it was like, okay, so it's invisible, so now I'm starting to think I used to think flesh and blood, I could shoot it and kill it. I think when it's in this, our, vision dimension, whatever you want to call it, our frequency, I think you can kill it, you shoot it and kill it. But I'm not sure how they change the frequencies or anything and do that. It's starting to become something that you read about in the Bible, something like that is what I think it is, something along those lines. And I think the aliens are the same thing, and the ghosts are the same thing. The ghosts aren't really ghosts. They all come that.
Yeah. Well, let's just go back to Bigfoot, and we'll catch up with that. What do you think about the movement, this gliding movement? I mean,
it's like a ninja.
Yeah.
You ever watch the ninjas, and like in the old the Chinese theater, and when they fly, it goes like birds, but they fly, they like float, like that's how they move. Their head does not bounce up and down, even though their arms will be pumping, everything will be, but they kind of glide. And I don't know how that's one of the first things I noticed. And I've seen it probably about 6 times since.
It just doesn't make sense, does it? Even in a flesh and blood form, to be in a visual form, even if it knows where to tread. I mean, it can't run and miss every stick, or like that smoothness people talk about. This gliding, it's very strange, isn't it?
Yeah, that and the prints. Like when I finally decided to go back to the mountains, and I didn't know anybody yet still, but only I'm brave enough to go look, and I went back to the area where I saw that big one, and I started going off trail and looking for tracks. And I've been tracking things in my whole life. They taught me how to track when I was 5, and they gave me a gun when I was 12, finally, and so I know what I'm doing out there. And I found tracks almost right away on my first weekend out. And I tracked it for about 3 miles. And then it got into a area where there was no trees, no rocks, no bushes. It was just a wide open gravel area on top of a mountain. And there was nowhere for them to hide. Well, I followed the tracks right to the middle, and the tracks ended. And they just ended. And it was at least 275 yards around before there was a tree or a rock or anything. And it was like, where did it go? And then I started like looking at the tracks. They were relatively fresh. I could see the lines that you have in your hands. I could see the lines of the foot in the track. Like I was right behind it. I was expecting to see it at any second, but I never saw it, never heard it. And then it just stopped. It was like, what did it make? Super jump, 200 yards or more. And, did a UFO pick it up? I didn't know. And I found that several times now. tracked him to the middle of nothing, and or be in the woods, and you'll be in the middle of snow, fresh snow, and all of a sudden there's 2 tracks. That's it. 2. That's it. Then you can't see where it came from. You don't know where it went. 2 perfect tracks. I mean, like, I'll show you one right here. I can show everybody. This was taken by my friend Adrian, but it's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Well, it's way down here, but let's see.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
You can get it.
That's amazing. That's huge.
Yeah, it has a broken toe. The little toe is broken. And what we find that a lot of the tracks that we find on the bigger tracks, the big ones, not so much the little ones that are only, like this big. I found some little ones this last weekend at a place that we go all the time, and we never found tracks before. We find tree breaks, but not tracks. But in the big ones, we always find mangled toes. And it was like what you're saying. How do they know not to step on this or that? In the middle of the night, I guess they do, and they do break their toes, and then they don't go to the doctor to get them fixed. So they stay mangled, and you find mangled feet and everything,
It makes you wonder. I mean, there'd be no surprise if they broke the legs or their arms. I mean, it happens to cattle. It happens to many creatures. But we don't. Well, as far as I know, we haven't found one, haven't we? That's been stuck because it can't climb up whatever it needs to because it's got a broken arm, or I don't know how they deal with breaks unless like that they are going to a different dimension and get some fairy dust on it. I don't know, and it all mends itself. I don't know how it works, but I interviewed some really interesting guys. I'll send you the link to that interview, and they're seeing it appear like a shimmering, like oil on water, even a bit like a predator.
Yeah, the predator.
They're saying they're communicating with them with mind speak.
Yeah,
it was a fascinating chat, and I'll send you the link, and you should have a look and see what you think. But they're definitely, we might as well call it the quantum Bigfoot, because that's pretty much what it has to be. If it's, well, I mean, I don't know. I'm certainly no expert on it, but it's very hard to work out, like you say, how they're doing these certain things. It just doesn't make sense that they're just bog standard animals, or whatever they are, like us. So,
like I know Ron Moorhead really well, and we interviewed him for our show, I think 3 times already over the years, and him and his daughter. And he, we get into these big after the show things, like we'll be after the show like 3 hours, going into this quantum thing, because that's really what he thinks. I mean, he didn't think that, but like when we first started interviewing him, he wasn't all quantum on us, but now he's pretty 100% sure it's quantum, even though he experienced the weird, disappearing and all that stuff. He couldn't put a finger on what he thought might cause it. And it was the quantum. That's where he landed, was quantum physics. And it is interesting to talk to him about that. And he has some huge footprints, about the size of what I saw when I first saw Bigfoot. So whatever the Bigfoot that left those tracks was at least over 12 feet tall. I mean, it's huge tracks, and he has them casted.
wow.
And man, I mean, he's interesting to talk to too. Really interesting.
Yeah, we've had him twice on the researcher's report, and I think the thing with any quantum subject, you need time. It's not that easy just to discuss it in a 20-minute, half an hour, even an hour show. There's so much to it, and maybe I think maybe some people give up on it because it's too hard to make sense of. But actually, if you just spend a few hours, it kind of does fit in. You know,
some people can't handle it at all.
Yeah.
You know, you start talking about that and they're like, they just shut you down, you know, like, no, that, you know, they're flesh and blood. We don't talk like that, you know. And I'll just shut up and I'll talk flesh and blood, you know, that but then I can go all the way to, you know, seeing them abducted by aliens. And I mean, like, we had one report recently on this last deer season, and the guy went up with his friend for the day. He doesn't hunt, he fishes, but his buddy hunts. And his buddy came in and got in the truck and went to sleep, and he was still fishing. And he said he saw this orb come over the mountain and float down over across the lake straight for him. You know, it started to scare him. And right before it got to him, it dipped into the water, disappeared. And he was like, wow. Before he even could react, a Bigfoot came running right next to him. He felt the breeze of it, and it dove in the water right exactly where that thing went into the water and disappeared and didn't come out. And I mean, he didn't stick around long to see if it was going to come up, but he boogied out. You know, he said he just like was dragging it as he was walking. He was reeling, you know, he didn't even wait to reel in. He was like heading for his truck and getting the heck out of there. That scared him so bad. But I've also had reports of them where people, and they don't know, okay, like we get reports, okay, this person's seeing a UFO, and then, you know, 3 campgrounds over, these people are seeing the Bigfoot, and it's heading in the direction of the UFO. And I mean, I've got like 5 reports like that, and I've one report of the Bigfoot even being beamed up to the UFO. So I mean, it's somehow all encompassing, but I don't know how yet. You know,
Okay.
I'm still working on it.
Yeah, I think we all are, aren't we?
Yeah.
It's a hard one to work out. So what do you feel about ghosts then? And
well, I was working with, I started in the video business about 1982, and I was in law enforcement and working. I started a video thing doing birthday parties and weddings and stuff like that. It's really birthday parties first. And I went to Africa. I got so good at it. I was getting hired to do TV shows and documentaries and stuff like that. And I got hired by this church company or church thing to go over there. And I watched some things I never saw in my life, like demon things. And we were way in the bush. And I really, after the first one, I wanted to leave. And I told him, you know, like, I'm on the next plane. He goes, you are? I told him, then let's go. And he's like, no, you're on the next plane. I go, well, let's go. Come on. I'm on the next plane. He goes, no, you don't get it. You are on the next plane. You know, like the next plane is the one you're booked to go on. I mean, he goes, you mean another 35 days? He's like, yeah. You know, I'm like, oh my God. Oh, I started freaking out, but I didn't know much. I learned a lot, but I didn't understand. Then when I got with this group, they started with ghosts, not Bigfoot. They happened into Bigfoot coming from ghosts. So we were doing ghosts, and I learned they're not ghosts. They're familiar spirits. When you die, you go somewhere. I died on the table, And I went somewhere and I learned I could travel at the speed of thought, all this stuff. And I was trying to tell my guys that, you know, they're not believing me. And then one day we got a call from this lady, and she wanted to tell us her story and be on our show. And so we went. She didn't live far, so we went over there, and she got on a knock on the door, and her son had been killed in Afghanistan. That's what she was told. She couldn't accept it. She didn't get to say goodbye. So she went and found a seance person in San Francisco, and they called the spirit of her son to the room, and she saw him and heard him, and he said he was fine. You know, don't worry, don't cry, everything's fine. You know, I'm in a really good place, all this stuff. Okay, 2 weeks later, she's home, and there's a knock at the door, and when she opens it, it's her son. He didn't die. They made a mistake. Okay, so if that her son didn't die, then who is the thing in the seance, right? Who was that looked like her son, smelled like her son, act like her son, sound like, you know? And that's what I get, like when we go to these haunted houses and stuff like that. It's the, you know, we have psychics with us. It's, oh, it's a little boy and he hung himself, or he accidentally hung himself, or, you know, stuff like that. Or it's my grandpa. This was his house, and when we could smell his cigar and all this stuff. It's not. Okay, it's not. That is how they get permission to stay in your house. They get familiar with you. They know everything about you. They know everything about your family. They might have followed your family for generations. And they just take on something familiar to you that they know that only you know, and they would know because they were there the whole time. And you'll accept them as the grandpa or the cousin or the grandma or whoever, your daughter, whatever. And then you allow them in your house. But at the same time, there'll be fighting and strife, and, you know, the family's falling apart, and just, you know, all kinds of problems. And then I learned how to get rid of them, and I would talk to the owner and get permission, and I would get rid of them, and it would all stop. And sometimes they would even say, for days after I left, the house would smell like flowers, or real smell like, you know, perfume, roses. And then all the strife stopped. Then no more fighting, no more bickering, no more. They're all happy, you know, and they wake up in the morning and they're eating breakfast together and all kinds of stuff. I mean, it's good to hear. And, but as long as they stay believing that it's not what it wants them to think it is, then they'll be free of it. You know.
Interesting. I mean, it works for you.
It works every time, 100%.
Yeah.
And I've even done it over the phone. I've done it over TV, like, or over the internet for people that have called in, and we use that one name, you know, that nobody likes to hear at all. You know, I wonder why nobody likes to hear it. You know, that's what I say to them. And I'm not a religious person. I don't go to church or anything. I died, and I went somewhere, and they asked me if I was done after I went doing all this stuff. They kept asking me, "Are you done?" I'm like, "What?" And they were talking in my brain. They're like, "Are you done?" You know, I'm like, "I don't know. I have," and I'm thinking, I don't get it. What are they talking about? You know? And then at one point, one of them said, "What about your kids?" And as soon as they said that, I was not thinking of this world. I wasn't done with that world. You know, then I realized what they're talking about, you know, like, oh, you know, done, you know, done with the world that I just came from. And as soon as they said that, all that went through my mind, and I started thinking about my family, and I felt myself get sucked up, and I went like lightning speed and slammed into my body about that fast as I could say it. Opened my eyes, and the doctor was right here yelling, stay with us, you know. And I was all freaked out, you know, like, oh my God, you know. I told the doctor, and he he just kind of, he didn't know what to say to me about that. All he said was, I saved your leg. I mean, he thought he was like God. He could take me all apart and put me together, you know, and he saved my legs. So maybe he's a demigod. I don't know. I think they are, you know, but he didn't know what to think about that, about traveling at the speed of thought, and also knowing anything you want. Like if you want to know what your family's doing, all you have to do is think about it and you'll know they're there. In fact, I did think about it at first. When there was nobody there. I was all by myself in this beautiful valley, and everything was beautiful and the smells were off the chart, things I can't explain. And I thought, am I going to ever see my family again? And then immediately I knew I would see my family again. Everyone's going to go there. We don't die. We die of this life, but we don't die forever and just goes black, you know, and we're gone. We go somewhere, and you will see your people. And then they told me too, I was moving all around. I went and checked out the mountains and stuff, and he told me I couldn't leave this place where I was, because if I went any further, then I couldn't go back. And he was like stopping me from going back, you know, going too far, in other words. And wow, you know, and I learned a lot from that right there. I then it was like, okay, I'm reading the Bible now. You know, there was too much stuff that the Bible was 100% on. And then I started thinking, and I always thought, especially after Africa, it is the most supernatural book out of all the books. I mean, there are so many things, predictions happened to the letter over the millennia, and there hasn't been one thing that they predicted in there that didn't happen, except for the ones that are about to come to happen, you know. So, I mean, everything that they said was going to happen for thousands of years, as the time went on, it happened. And then some of them, they didn't know if it happened or not. But archaeology is proving that it does happen. It did happen. And these people do exist, or towns exist and stuff. So, I mean, people need to be open. I mean, if they're open for a Bigfoot and a ghost and a UFO and all that stuff, you need to be open for the whole banana, you know, or whatever.
Yeah, I believe that. I said it last night, I think, on the researchers report. Yeah, you kind of have to leave your beliefs on the doorstep, and have an open mind to things, and also look into things that maybe you wouldn't necessarily want to, you know, because who knows what the answers are. There's just so much going on. So I'm just going to pick up a little comment that came up.
Okay.
And
yeah, so I want to say one thing though before we get to that. Question everything, okay? Question what I just said. Research everything. Don't believe anybody about anything. Pick and choose what you find here, and then go research it out. And it's all there. You just have to research it. Do your due diligence. Don't just take everything for granted what you hear. Okay.
That's a great point. That's a great point. I mean, we do it all the time, especially in the Bigfoot world. We tend to just repeat what people are saying, whether we know it to be true or not. And we carry these things around that we think are kind of facts or the truth. And it's not always the case, is it? And you really have to, you know, believe nothing and just question everything until you've really done your research, you know. And it's good to, you don't have to believe,
no, but
you can still log that information and you can weigh it up yourself, can't you? Let me just find this little, I'm not going through all the questions at the moment, but Squatchaholic, I'm really sorry to hear this, but she said after her son died, sometimes I smelled cigarettes in the house and I knew it was him. What do you feel when people talk about residual energy? Is that the same thing?
When you die, you're gone. And if see, the thing is, people think, well, they're checking up on me and they love me, and when you're on the other side, you only have to think about that person. You know everything they're doing, where they're at, and you know it isn't a very long, like there's no more time for you. Okay, now time is going to be forever. You don't die. Okay, you live forever and ever and ever and ever. Now time to you is very minuscule. It doesn't seem like, when you were living, it's something like forever, a decade, 2 decades. But when you're over there, a minute could be a decade. So you think of your family, and then immediately, it isn't going to be like a few minutes or not long at all, and they're going to be there. Son, grandma, mom, everybody dies. Everybody leaves this life and goes on. So they don't hang around. They don't have to, because they can know anything. They can know anything in the universe, whatever they want to know. They only have to think about it. It's only us that want to hold the ties of the, it makes us feel good, but these things, these entities on the earth that curse generations of families, they have to have permission. If you deny their permission, they have to leave. Okay. If you figure out that isn't what you think it is, and you kick it out of there, it will have to leave, and it knows that. So it has to become something that you'll accept, that you'll want, and never kick out. And then it can stay with your generation and pass on to the next generation and the next generation. And it will hang with you all your life. And then when you die, it'll be you to one of your kids or somebody that's close to you. And it'll hang in there and cause problems and cancer and all kinds of problems. And you're not thinking you think it's just as you grow older, all these problems happen. Well, some of them are not. They are from these outside energy things, and they're not what we think it is.
Where are you putting orbs then? How do you
I have no idea, because I've never seen one morph into something else. Like I don't think they're from another planet. I believe they were here the whole time they're here. Some of them may be able to travel the planets. Like I said, you could travel at the speed of thought. And if you read the Bible, the angels, okay, they're in all the dimensions. They can see all the dimensions, even our dimension. And the Bible says we live in this one dimension, and we see life through smoky glass. Like, we can't see all the dimensions. That doesn't mean there isn't everything around us in those dimensions. It just means we can't see it in this life. So, I mean, there could be a ton of stuff all around us, and we don't even know.
Oh, yeah. I'll send you another link, actually, and if anyone wants to check it out, it's a channel called Orbs Realm, and a guy called Brendan, and he captures some amazing orbs in his house. They're not just round orbs. One of them was like a ribbon coming down, and one of them actually rotates as it's coming down from the ceiling to the floor. There is like a magnet to them. I don't know what it is. He's having a really good experience with them. There doesn't seem to be anything negative going on, but it's really fascinating to watch how he's attracting them, and the different sizes of them, the speed of them, the slowness of them. It's fascinating stuff.
Well, everyone can check out Dr. Johnson, Team Squatching USA.
Oh, Matt Johnson.
He's I think they call him the Janu. Okay, that's what they call the Bigfoot, Janu. And they come as orbs and energies like that, and they heal people. Like I know several, I talked to several of those guys and they're trying to sway me from this demon thing that they think I'm saying, that everything's a demon, but no, everything isn't a demon. It could be angels too. Just like I said, the angels, some of them could be bad ones though, but we just have to be careful is what I'm saying. But like this guy, he had cancer in the colon, and he helped Dr. Johnson he made the machine that held the portal open. Okay, now they made a portal that these Bigfoot or Janu were able to keep open and save 20 something thousand Janu from another dying planet where supposedly their sun is expanding and going to overtake the world and kill the world. Well, according to them, a lot of them already died from it, but they found Earth and with their own power, they could open portals and get here, but they couldn't save everyone. And they found Dr. Johnson, and he found, I don't know if I should say his name, Steve, I should say. I won't say his last name, but they found Steve, and I'm sure he probably wouldn't mind, but I haven't asked him. So they made this portal and they saved all the rest of the Janu onto the Earth. And right after that, Steve started having visitations that because they hold Dr. Johnson and Steve and this other guy at a really high level because they saved all of the Janu race. So now they have each a protector that goes with them everywhere, and they look like orbs. And they go in and out of them, like they can go in their head, but they healed Steve, and they've healed people of leg problems and all kinds of stuff. So I mean, I don't know, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. That's why I say question everything. Don't take my word for it. Like, do your due diligence. It is out there. The information is out there. Ron is out there. Ron Moorhead with all his stuff is out there. Dr. Johnson's out there. I'm out there. I mean, there's a whole bunch of people, and they all have different experiences and things, and then you can put it together and make sense for you, and it might not agree with what I say because I don't agree with what Dr. Johnson says, like, I mean, we all don't agree, but
yeah. Well, like you're saying about angels, it could be good angels, bad angels. Why can't they be good spirits? Why couldn't that spirit, that the guy in the army, couldn't that have been him in a parallel universe?
I have no idea. All I know is that lady doesn't believe any of that stuff anymore because of that. Because she was face to face with her son in a spirit form. And at that time, her son was getting ready to come home, packing and everything. And he had no idea what was going on. He didn't even know that they told her that he died.
Wow.
Until he got home. And then he freaked out. It was like, what? He wanted to sue the army, because that was like bad for his mom, really bad. But like now, I gotta say, there's good stuff too. Like, and people have power. Okay. And if you read the Bible, it says lay hands on people and they'll be healed. Well, when I was working for that church group, now mind you, I was the biggest alcoholic in the world at that time, but it didn't, when I was sober and working, I gave my all to what I was doing. I didn't get drunk and work, but only I saw some things like with the cameraman, you have to get right down there with your camera, and get in on the shot. I watched a lady's eyes grow back. And what was really weird is I knew this lady. She was my 7th grade teacher for a class, and she wore glasses, and her name was Alice Ragsdale. And we went into this church. Man, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about this. This one blew me away. But we go in this church, and I wouldn't even like put a shadow of my shadow on a church door. Okay, that was like just not me. But for pay, I'll go. And I went in there, and there was this lady sitting there. I had no idea it was Alice Ragsdale. And now I'm 20 something years old, from the 7th grade, but her tear ducts dried up and her eyes dried up into little raisins and fell out, I guess. But she was sitting there with 2 patches. And this one guy says, "Hey, God just told me, he went to me, didn't like say it out to everybody. He goes, man, God just told me that he wants to heal Alice. I'm like, okay. He goes, bring your camera. So I go over there, and I kneel down right behind him right behind his shoulder. And I'm looking right at her face. And he says, Alice, do you believe God still heals? And she said, oh, yes, and he just said, in the name of Jesus, be healed. That's all. He didn't go into this big, long nothing, and I was expecting that, though. And all of a sudden, some tears came out from under the eye patches, these black things. And he's like, remove those things, pull them off. And she pulled them off. And when she opened her eyes, I could see right in her eyes, there was no eyeballs. I was like, whoa, and then the camera shook and everything was like, whoa. I mean, that was shocking to me. But then, I got myself back together, and she closes her eyes. The next time she opens them up, she has the beautifulest blue eyes.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my gosh, I know her. That's when I recognize her, like, hey, that's my teacher. And afterwards, I got her information and I stayed in contact with her. And she says she never had to wear glasses again. She had 20/20 vision. And she passed away finally, but she never had to wear glasses. She swears up and down God heals. And I believe her. I mean, I never seen eyes grow back in anybody's head. And I seen some other stuff too. So, I mean, that was like the extreme of what I've saw. But hey, it happened. And I don't know where the tape is. The church, they bought everything. They were paying me. So they got the master copies of everything. I have no idea where these tapes are. I wish I had some of them because it would be proof of what I'm saying, but I don't care what people think. They can think I'm lying. I don't care. Really, I don't. Do your homework. There's stuff like that going on still today. You'll find it, it's there. Just look. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of things out there. A lot of people healing people with their hands, not just for me, I don't believe just through the work of the Lord, but people that can do Reiki, people who can do massage, people who can just put your hands on you and make you feel better, but that sounds pretty incredible, the eye story, and I no doubt that you experienced that. So
yeah. Heck, I wrestled with a demon in Africa, a little boy, 8 years old. I have that on my Facebook. I wrote a note, like a story. Everybody's telling me, write a book, and I every time I sit down to write a book, I can't write it. Okay. It's just like everything goes, whew. But I can sit down and tell a story. And then the other day, my wife's like, you want to write a book? Why don't you just write a story at a time, and then pretty soon you'll have a book, I was like, whoa, what an idea.
Well, tell us about Africa.
It was a trip. I got robbed every day. They stuck a gun in my face and they took half my money, which was their money, though. I cashed in the American into, I think it was CDs in Ghana. But we went in 3 different countries, and we went way in the worst places because what the idea was to document all the money that the people send over there to help Africa or those villages and stuff, kids. And I found out the rich people actually had clothes like Fruit of the Loom underwear, and they didn't have all the clothes, but some of them were rich. They had Fruit of the Loom and Hanes and stuff like that, or some flip flops that 99-cent store stuff, and it was interesting. And then one day, I mean, I got robbed every single day. Okay. Every single day. And then one day it was their, what do you call it? Our 4th of July. I don't know. Every country has it, Independence Day.
Uh-huh.
And the president, he gave us a letter saying that we could go into the stadium and videotape it. And when we got there, they stopped us. And they took my camera and stuff and put it way out, away from me, and then held me at gunpoint. And they took a couple of us in at a time. And I couldn't ever bring my camera stuff in there. But when they walked me in there, we sat down, and the president was talking. He was holding his arm up, I think it was his right arm. And he was talking about how people better watch out what they talk about, like politically. Don't talk about his regime. This is the second time he took over this country. The first time was a bloodless coup. This last time, he had to kill people. He wants to give it back to the country, but only he wants him to be good, but he can't because everybody's talking about him. And he says if everybody doesn't shut up, he's gonna make an example. And behind him there was 100 people with these Jeeps with machine guns on them, and they were walking behind him on the beach. And all of a sudden he went like that when he said example, and the Jeep mowed everybody down. And then everybody that was there, like it was estimated 3-point-something million people, they all started yelling, let the blood flow in Ghana. Let the blood flow in Ghana. That's when I looked at the dude next to me. I'm like, man, I wish there was a plane tomorrow, dude, because I would be out of here. This place is bad. It wasn't as bad as the other countries, though, as far as like living conditions and stuff, but it was bad. But some things happened. Like one time, I don't know how much time we have, but
As long as you want.
We went in this one village, and God was dealing with me about what I was thinking about these guys. Okay. I thought they were a bunch of asshats. I don't know if I could say that, but they were asshats, man. They were pissing me off, so bad, because here they are, like really high up ministers in this organization, and they're freaking dickheads, and they're not anything what I was thinking how ministers should be. They're like me. They have all these, they have problems just like I did, and I had a hard time accepting that part, and God was dealing with me on it. And there were some things that I thought they should be doing that they didn't even have a clue to do. And it was making me mad, like, what are you even doing over here? You greedy bastard, like I want to beat him up myself, and like, let's get off the bus. I will beat you with this tripod until you can't talk, like they were making me that mad. And we went into this one village, and we videotaped, like they bought a tractor and some stuff, and there's all these people, and they were growing yams at this farm, like 300 and something acres, and they had hoes, but the stick was that long. Okay, so they're all bent over, and there's like 100 of them out there, and they're making the rows, walking backwards, and I'm videotaping all this stuff, and I do it all day, and I do a few interviews with them, and then I'm done, and now they're going to go sit down and do a meeting or something, and I don't have to have that videotape. So I go back, and now going back in the morning, okay, before all this, I wake up in the morning, and I felt this buzz go through me, like zzz. And it was like, whoa, like what was that? Kind of weird. And then it did it again, and it did it again, and it was doing it over and over all day, and it was picking up like in between, almost like birth pains. It was getting like less and less time in between them. And when we got to that village, it was like every couple of minutes, it would be like, And I was starting to think I was going to die, you know, and that's when I was like, okay, God, you know, you got me all the way over here. You know, don't let me die over here, God. You know, I'll quit drinking. I'll do anything, you know, I don't want to die over here. You know, I want to see my family again and everything. And it was really worrying me because I would feel that all the way through my whole body and I didn't know what to do. So we get done videotaping. These three little girls are walking up to me, and one of them in the middle looked like that something like an axe had split her head,
Right.
and I could fit my whole hand right into the scar, and her eyes were even set apart, you know. And I was like, oh my God, how did she live through that? You know, like, and it looked like it affected her mentally and everything, you know. And I was thinking, you know, I looked around and see if anybody's looking. Like, I'm gonna pray for that little girl. You know, like even though I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know how to pray or nothing. My heart is for kids. I have 3 foster kids, 3 of my own kids. I mean, if you want to get to me, that's the way to get to me. And so I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna pray for the little kid. I'm looking around, you know, and I walk over there, and right when I'm about to get my hand on top of her head, I felt that energy that has been zapping me. It went right out my arm, hit her. She went flying back like 10 feet, bounced off the ground in the dust. I'm sitting there going, oh my God, you know, I didn't even touch her. The little girls that were with her, their eyes are like this big. They're looking at me, you know. I'm like, oh no, you know, I'm going to die. That's what I'm thinking. I can't even talk to these people because I don't know their language. I look up and here comes all these people running at me. I'm like, oh, this is it. You know, I am a dead man. And I'm just watching them run at me, and they surrounded me. And I'm thinking, oh man, you know, I'm ready to die now. And so God, make it quick, you know. don't let me get beat up for an hour and a half, you know. I want to just die really quick. And then, you know, they're saying all this stuff to me. I don't know what they're saying. And the guy grabs my hand and he puts it on this little kid's head, and I felt this energy go out, and he felt it too. His eyes got all lit up, and, you know, he smiled at me, and he had his teeth are all like, ugh. But they actually looked like they were sawed like shark teeth.
Right.
And they even had little drill holes in them and stuff, but they also had cavities, you know. He's like, and they grabbed my other hand and put on this little girl, and I felt the energy go through, you know, and he was all grinning and everything. And I started getting it. You know, I didn't say anything like prayer wise. All I did was just keep touching little kids. As long as I kept doing that, they were happy. And I did all the little kids. And then they pushed the women at me, and I touched every woman and every man. And then when I was all done, I had done all 400 something villagers. Okay. When I got done, the preachers are mad at me. They're like, we're on a schedule. You know, our itinerary is shot for the day. You know, what do you think you're doing? You're not even a godly person. You know, I'm thinking, call me not a godly person. You know, like, where's my tripod? You know, I'm going to get this guy. Boom. And so they chewed me out royal, and we're in the van. We go to this little village, and we in the next village, and we sleep for the night. And I'm freaking out because there's stuff in the grass, and I'm on a grass thatched bed. I got a sheet over my head, and stuff's falling all over me, and I did not sleep at all. But a week later, it happened again in a bigger village, probably like 800 people or 700 people. And it happened, only it was a little boy on crutches. And I don't know why I didn't think of the little girl. I didn't think it would happen again. I don't know. But I seen that little boy, and I'm like, and I was giving everybody Reese's peanut butter cups. And I gave one kid a Reese's peanut butter cup. He took one little piece, and then he ran over to all these other kids, and he broke that one little mini Reese's piece, and he gave it to everybody, little pieces, and then they all ran off and were gone. One cup, Peter, but I'm waiting for him to all come back for another one, like America or any other civilized country, you know, more. Nobody came back. And until this little boy on crutches came up, and I'm thinking, oh man, I gotta pray for that little boy. And then it happened again, exactly again. And then the preachers actually put a guard on me from that time on. And I kept telling them, like, where were you at? I mean, I think God wants you to do that, not me. You know, and I don't think I was here to do that. I think you guys are here to do that. But he can't talk to you or something, you know, and it's winding up on me, and you guys are mad at me, and I don't get it. It just was like a really weird trip.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah.
Like that again, like you've had some energy in you or something building up to pass on, or what?
Never happened again.
Never happened again.
No. I never even heard the ever again. Nothing, never again.
Wow.
Only like the last night, though. The last night we were there, we went in this huge room, and we were in a big city, million of people. It's called I can't remember the name of the city, but we're actually going to go home the next day, and I'm happy as can be, and I don't care, you know. And they put me in the corner, and they put their guard with, you know, next to me, and said, don't let him do anything. Don't let him ruin anything. You know, we're all going home in the morning. I'm like, yes, I will not do a thing. Even though I hadn't done anything except those 2 incidents. Well, they did their whole thing. And then at the very end, they did like a prayer line type thing, like a healing line. And then they started doing music. And they had a table in front of me where they put their drums and guitars and everything on it, you know, all the musical instruments. That was supposed to keep me from getting away. That guy next to me and that table in front of me, that locked me into the corner. And I was happy to be there, really. And then right when they were playing the music, this lady comes in carrying this little boy. He's, I don't know, 6, 8, somewhere in there. And he was just limp, and he was just laying there, and he wasn't looking at anything. Just his eyes were just looking straight. And they stopped everything so that all those guys could pray for this little boy. And I watched what they did. They grabbed him by the head, you know, and they were commanding the demon out and stuff. And he didn't even look at him. He didn't acknowledge him. He didn't acknowledge anything. He was just laying there looking off into space, you know. And then the main chief guy, top preacher guy, says, hey, so, you know, you think you're the praying guy? You want to crack at him? I'm like, I don't know how to pray. You guys don't get it, you know. I don't know what I'm doing, you know, like, sure, whatever, you know. Nothing happened with you guys. I doubt if anything will happen with me. I mean, come on, you know. I'm like, sure. So I go over there, and I'm just going to do exactly what I watch those guys do. I'm just going to grab him by the forehead, say, come out, demon, you know. I don't know what to say, you know. And so I go over there, and the first thing I notice as I'm getting close to him, he's looking at me. Okay, he didn't look at anyone. All of a sudden, he's looking at me. And as I get a little bit closer, he growled at me, you know, and his eyes looked like that if he could kill me, he would kill me. And as soon as he growled, you know, I looked back at all those guys, these 7 guys, these preachers, and they were like, just like freaked out. Their mouth is open, their eyes are all big, you know, they're like, whoa. And then I'm a kid guy. Okay, I'm the kid guy. I got angry immediately, like, okay, so is it a demon? You know, like, I don't know what's going on here, but whatever it is, it can't have that kid. And so I couldn't grab him, though. He was trying to get me and claw me and bite me and everything. I mean, he all of a sudden he lurched out of the chair and jumped at me and tried to get me, you know, and I jumped back, you know, and he was flopping around on the floor trying to get my ankles. And I looked back at the preachers, and they're like, they were like mortified, you know, and I didn't know what to do. So I got on my knees and I faked him out with one hand. And as he was trying to grab that and bite it, I grabbed him with the other one, and I had him. And then we were rolling around, knocking chairs over and everything, and everybody's getting out of the way. And I told that demon he couldn't have him and get out, you know. But I didn't say Jesus' name. I had no idea to. I just was telling him he had to leave. And when I didn't feel anything, everything, you know. So I thought, I guess I did what I could. Nothing's happening. And So I jumped back and I ran back in my chair and I sat down, and that kid was screaming bloody murder, trying to bite everybody. It took 3 people to carry him out, 1 person to carry him in, 3 people to get him out. And you can hear him screaming off into the distance. Everybody's looking at me, I'm like, I don't know what to do, at all. And they start playing music again to try to soothe everybody. And then I get mad at God. I'm like, I don't trust you, God. I don't like you, God. You drag me all the way across the world and get me in trouble with all the preachers that should have been doing this. And then this, like, don't call on me no more. Okay. Don't ask me for nothing. I don't believe in you. I don't want to be anything for you. This is it. About that time I went deaf. I couldn't hear a thing. And I was sitting there looking at everybody. I could see the drums and the dancing and everything. And the guy next to me was trying to talk to me, and his lips are moving, but it was total no sound.
Wow.
And I'm sitting there and at first I'm thinking that my ears are going to pop any minute, and I'm messing around with my ears and everything, and it didn't work. And a few minutes goes by. I'm like, I'm sorry, God, I didn't mean to like say it like that, And I start talking to him and apologizing all over myself, and nothing worked. I mean, I was deaf. And after 20 minutes, I realized I was going to be deaf the rest of my life. And I mean, that's what I came to the conclusion. And I was just sitting there and thinking, how am I going to tell my wife how I got deaf? She is not going to believe this. Nobody is, nobody's going to believe this. And about the time that I was resolved to being deaf, I heard a voice. And the voice told me that the little boy is healed. But he's being healed gradually, not instantly like how I wanted. He said, I don't do anything how anyone wants. I do it how I want to do it, or how I say it. He will be gradually healed. And just remember, it's all my way, not your way. I was like, oh, like that. And all of a sudden my ears popped, and the sound of the room about knocked me out of my chair. I mean, I couldn't believe how loud everything was. I mean, it was, I fell against a wall like, whoa, oh my gosh, that is loud. But then it dawned on me, I could hear, and then I got up and I was dancing with everybody around the room and crying with them. And I mean, it was intense. Afterwards, we go into a hotel and they all say, hey, we're going to take a shower and then we'll go eat dinner, and I'm thinking, it's 11 o'clock. It's 90% humidity. My room is air conditioned. I'm not taking a shower. You get out of the room and instantly you're like all wet. Like, screw that. I'll take a shower when I come back, and then go to bed nice and clean and cool. So I go in the room, where they call it in the hotel lobby room. And I sit down and the preacher guy is there. And I sit down next to this lady and I'm talking to him. And all of a sudden he just goes, God told you something. And I want to know what it is. And I'm like looking at him like, what? This is so weird. Like, you got to be kidding. And he was serious. He stood up and he was like, God told you something. And I want to know what it is. I don't know what he's talking about. Really, I didn't know. The only thing I think of is what the voice told me. So I told him what the voice told me. The little boy is gradually getting healed. And it's in God's time, not our time, like that. And the lady jumped up that was next to me. She started dancing around the room, whoa. And he was like, praise God, praise God. And I told him, who's the lady? He goes, you don't recognize her? I'm like, no. He says, that's the little boy's mother. I'm like, what? I never looked at her. I was too busy with her son, trying to get me. I never, ever even looked at her. And then he sat me down. He's just 5 years ago, it was prophesied, or however they say that the little boy, a white man with a white afro, was going to come in and pray for that little boy, and he would gradually get better. Wow. I'm like, what? I go like, wow, whoa, like, wow. He says, and you know what? What? Said that the little boy, for the first time in his life, when they got him home, he actually was recognizing his sisters, like looking at them. He said he never gave anyone eye contact ever, and he was actually looking in the eyes of his sisters, and they were feeding him, and they weren't force feeding him down his throat. He actually was chewing and swallowing the food. Wow. And he's gradually getting better. And I was like, wow, I got up and I danced with that lady. I go, you're so lucky like that, And we danced around, even though I couldn't understand what she only spoke a little bit of English. So, but I danced with her for till all those guys came out. We danced around the lobby. I know we looked stupid, but I didn't care at that point, really.
Yeah, it's an amazing story.
Yeah, it sounds like totally out there, but who can make that up? You know what I mean? That would be really having a lot of imagination, and I didn't make it up.
No. Do you feel like you're I don't want to say special, but do you think there's a reason? Do you think your things are happening to you for a reason?
Yeah,
for things.
I think that's why I can find Bigfoot all the time, anywhere I go, almost. And I have interactions with them all the time. Even the mind speak thing with them. I don't know I don't know why though, I have no idea still. Here I am, just turned 61, and I don't know what this is to me, all I know is it makes, I have a lot of friends that have been abducted. And I mean, I have my friend thing is all really trippy people, Bigfoot encounters and paranormal psychics and all this stuff, and those are my friends that kind of gravitate to it. And my only thing is I have these weird things happen to me that I can't explain.
Yeah, well, it's kind of special, it is that you're experiencing these things. I didn't want to try and say it in a funny way, it can be sometimes misconstrued, but what do you think about the mind speak then? And
I think I think we were probably created to have that. And we were also probably created to see in all the realms. And something happened. The Bible talks about it. If you guys want to know what it is, something happened and we lost that. And we weren't supposed to die either. Those guys lived 1,000 years after they got cursed. And the flood, even after the flood came, the people lived 300, 400, 600 years until now today, where we only, if we make it to 100, we're kind of lucky. And I think that there's a time coming real soon where it's all going to give back to us. We're all going to gain this back. Just hopefully everybody will be in the right mindset. And what I mean by that is quit being negative about everything, Yeah, I think that has a lot to do with it. People wonder how I could stay so positive. Every time they meet me, they're like, dude, you just had your eyeball pierced with a needle. How come you're smiling and having such a good time? I mean, they don't know I'm in pain or anything. Nobody can tell. And it's because I think that what you do here, and your attitude towards people especially, is going to carry over into that other realm. So don't ruin it here and then find out you get that rotten apple on the other side, right? Yeah. Be good on this side and be caring and empathetic and loving and forgiving and help people. And even though you don't want to forgive people, don't carry that with you. And that will carry over into your next life, and you might really enjoy the next level. If not, and you were the negative course, vibrational person, you might have a bad time over there. And if what they say is true, you might not even go to the good part of it. You might go somewhere where you forever live and hate it. And don't make that bed. Don't make that hole. Get out of it right now. Change all that, And I'm not saying you got to get all religious. I'm just saying you just got to change how you are with people and yourself. That's all.
The law of attraction too. If you're positive, you're going to attract positive things. If you get out of bed in a mood that morning, your day's done, isn't it? You've had it. It's going to go even worse before you outside.
It just proves itself to you. Like, I knew it. No,
Oh yeah, you're going to be fuming by the time you've got home from work, aren't you? When you carry stuff like that. Alan, you've got your channel is Squatch Zone, isn't it?
Yeah, I have the Squatch Zone. And then I have Sky Squatching. That's where I do all my drone videos. And I just put only drone, and I encourage everyone to go look at that one, because I have found, and so has all my people that we research with or investigate, the Bigfoots like waterways. So when I go up there, I fly the drone up and down the creeks, and the drone can go 2 or 3 miles.
Okay.
So it might catch that Bigfoot sitting by the water, fishing or washing something or standing there, and I might not see it. And I might go through that real quick, but I might not see it really, truly. I might not. But I'll load all those videos on Sky Squatching, and somebody might see the Bigfoot that's unaware, like they might stop and look for a minute, like, what the heck is that thing buzzing by, before they disappear. And that's what I'm hoping, is I catch them like that. And I'm hoping that one day, I don't have the funds, but I want to get a FLIR drone and also a FLIR handheld, because I know that I could get FLIR footage, because I'm near, when I go out there, they throw rocks at me and we hear them talking, and they come around our camp all the time. I just need the right equipment.
Yeah. I've just put a link for Sky Squatching, and it's Squatching without a G. It is Squatching.
Yeah, Squatching. Yeah.
I'll put a link for that in the chat, and I'll put it in the description. What's your third channel, or is that a top secret one?
No, I have a new one. I'm actually helping a lady. Now, this is like what I was talking about, like, be good to people. Okay, the lady's husband died, and he had a syndicated radio show, and it was worldwide, and it was called The Radio Detective. And when I took it, I didn't think that she had thousands of tapes, though. But I just thought it was a couple of hundred or something. But it's more than I probably could do. But I'm gonna give it all my go, And I promised her I would do it. And I'm taking the tapes, turning them to MP3, and then running them into a video editor with a picture and making it available on YouTube, non-monetized. Okay, this is a work of love. And so we're bringing his voice back to the world the only way I know how. And it's great stories. I only have 3 up so far, because I've been working on it for almost a year, but finding a tape deck that didn't have the hiss and all the noise and breaking the tapes and stuff like that, it was really hard. And without spending a fortune, because I don't have a fortune to spend. In a labor of love, you don't want to spend $900 on a tape deck. Not even $10 if you could help it. But finally, I just trust in that the one that takes care of me on everything. And the tape deck came to me finally, and now I'm putting out. It sounds like it's coming straight off the radio. No noise or anything. You know, the lady's blessed just from the one show that when I first put it up, but I'm going to keep doing it, and it's great stories. He was a great guy.
Yeah, I think what you're giving to is priceless anyway. What you're giving back to his missus to hear him again.
Yeah, that one's called Radio Detective. Radio Detective.
I'm going to get that up now. Radio Detective. Is that relatively new, Alan? Because
it's only like a couple days.
All right, it might take me. I might have to get the link off you because YouTube's not very good at showing brand new channels with very little with only a few. You send me the link and I'll put it in the description.
Sure, I will.
People can check it out. I'm just gonna whiz back up because there was a few questions.
Sure. Oh, I'm sure there was. I bet there's lots of them now, but I'm up for it, and they can't phase me really.
I'm sorry, guys, but probably some of them have gone missing because it's gone too far up. So if you don't mind asking them again, I'll hang on. Alan, is Bigfoot Mind Speak the same as the voice you heard tell you about the child?
No. In fact, when I was mind speaking with the Bigfoot, sometimes there's two of them, and they're not authoritative like that voice. The other voice is very authoritative. Like he owned me, and the Bigfoot aren't like that. Even though they try to teach me stuff like the web of life and how we're all connected and stuff like that. I mean, that's what they want to talk about.
Okay. The questions that were up there have disappeared.
Go on. Yeah. Sorry, my dog came in.
Oh.
Go on.
Andy Gone Fishing, did you not ask one? And Albo X, did you not ask another one about the valley?
The Bigfoot in the valley?
Yeah. When he died, they wanted to know. I think it was why, if it went away. This is why I should have read it all or put it up, because I'm putting bits together and they might not all be the same. Okay. Brian Max 30. What do you think the sounds were when you were out camping with Jeff?
They're Bigfoot.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. And they sound like owls. And actually they even can say your name and stuff. We don't have recordings of that, but they meow like kittens to try to draw you away from camp. I think some of them are bad, and I think some of them don't really care. You know what I mean? They're curious and stuff, and they already know who we are, and they come through. But I think some of them, if they could get us alone, we would never come back. I'm pretty sure. I mean, you could feel that. You'll get a little ways from camp, and all of a sudden you're like, man, I'm too far. And you go back, and I think that's them, looking at you, and your gut feeling will save your life, I think.
Yeah. Here we go. Andy Gone Fishing. Alan, what do you think that squatches are? Advanced humans, aliens, or new animal species?
I think they're old, real old, ancient people. I'm part Native American. My wife is quarter. I work in the tribal gaming for Indian casinos. For a long time, I was the marketing director. I've held several director positions, like food and beverage director. So that means I got to sit through a lot of council meetings and stuff like that and get to know the medicine men and actually got to know the medicine men as friends because of what I just talked about, the topics I shared with them because I want to know what they think. And then they share with me their beliefs of Bigfoot and stuff like that. And not all of, some of them call them brothers, but not all of them. They fear them, and they think that they also are interdimensional. They 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 know they eat the kids, the babies. They come through their camp and eat the babies, and this is known throughout the North Americas. They've done that. And a lot of times, people say, well, I never heard that story. Well, they aren't going to tell you that story unless you're really good friends or family or something. You just can't go up to them and say, hey, tell me about your Bigfoot. They're just going to look at you and laugh at you and maybe lie to you and then laugh after you leave. So it took me about 3 or 4 years for they were even trust me to tell me the truth about the Bigfoot war and all that. So, but only I think they're ancient. They according to the tribes, they were here before they were. And now we're finding that the mounds were the giant mounds and the giants of old. We're finding they might even be related to that. There's new work coming out on that.
That is interesting. This was it, Albo X. When you died, did you see the being that wouldn't let you leave the valley?
Yes, there's 2 of them. They were light, complete light. I couldn't tell if, I knew they were men somehow, but they were really bright light. And they weren't there when I first entered the valley, but I'm a mountain guy, right? Raised in the mountains and stuff. So when I saw the mountain range, I was like, oh man, I'm going to check that out one day. I really want to check that out. As soon as I thought that, I was in there in the mountains. And I was sitting there smelling these smells like, oh my God, this is so, I love the smell of the mountains. This was mountain smell times 50,000, right? It was, and I could smell too. That was the weird part, and then all that was going through my mind. Like I could smell, where I am. How did I get here? And then when I turned around, I was turning around slowly and I seen the valley all laid out. And it was like, oh no, how did I get here? Why did I do that? What if there was somebody waiting for me, I'm such a dummy. I shouldn't have did that. I should be right back over there. As soon as I thought I should be back over there, bam, I was right there. And these 2 guys are waiting for me. And that's when they started talking to me. And then I thought, what else can I do? Like he's like, I told him, how did I do that? He goes, you could travel at the speed of thought. Like, really? And then I wanted to try it everywhere, do all kinds of stuff. And then they're like, hey, are you done? In my mind though, mind speak, like, are you done yet? Are you done? And I kept on going, what? Done? Are you kidding? Like, done? I hadn't even begun. You don't know.
Dig a dog. Does Alan ever tell them ahead of time that he's going out to look for them? Take it that's the Bigfoot.
I was doing that for a while. I was. I stopped doing that because, in fact, my aunt was the one telling me I should ask permission and stuff like that before going into their areas or their home or whatever. But I'm not going into their home. I'm going into public area. They're free to roam in there. There's roads. We aren't hiking into anywhere. I can't hike. So at first I was doing it and I thought, I'm not even going 50 feet off the road. Like I'm not climbing a hill. I'm not going in their zone at all. They're coming out to mine. They should ask me permission if they're going to mess with me, like, hey, can I mess with you today? And so I quit doing it, even though I did put my intentions out that I don't have any. When I get in the hills, I or in the areas. It's not hills all the time now. I put my intentions out that I'm not there to, you know, hurt them or do anything like that, and just stand still for a second so I can take your picture. You know,
That's all you want is a picture.
yeah.
Andy, gone fishing. Alan, do you think the Squatches have technology that keeps them concealed?
I don't know. I think it's something they're born with. I think that I've read a lot, and I have some friends that figured out some of their low frequency stuff, and I think that's just something that they're born with. And from what I understand from the other people that are into that part of it, they don't know why we don't have it. Like, we're supposed to have it. They don't understand why we aren't able. And they stay away from us too, because they think that we might be cursed, kind of like we should have all the stuff they do, and even be more of it, even from what I understand.
We seem to be so conditioned, don't we, when we're growing up as kids and over the years, that we end up stop thinking for ourselves almost, don't we?
The government has a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
You know, your teachers, all that.
Yeah, exactly. Society can almost, you know, just turn you into, I don't want to say the word sheep, but we kind of do just go with what we're being told. But you know, I think instinct, we've all got it, and that gut instinct, and I rely on mine so much.
Me too.
And I don't think, you know, a lot of people do, but your body tells you all the time, down to putting food into your body, what it's going to want and what it won't want. I mean, your body can immediately let you know, and we should trust ourselves more, I think. Believe in ourselves more. I know that sounds a bit cheesy, but, you know, believe in yourself, because we do. I'm pretty sure we do have the power to.
I know we do.
More than what we are.
I know we do.
Yeah.
We just don't even practice it, even. You know, and then with the, like, our parents were taught, and their parents and their parents, right? So when you're little, I mean, they immediately, your parents start teaching you what you can't do, you know, and what you should do and all that stuff. So, I mean, you never have a chance. Nobody has a chance nowadays.
Yeah, it's a shame. Right, the last question. Alan from 5 Hazel, tell us your most aha moment, whichever way you want to take that.
My most aha moment. My most aha moment is when I realized God was real. And I know that's going to blow everybody away. But I already told you I was an alcoholic. And I also had a Coke addiction. Okay. So, and this is in the 80s. And I'm not a slouch. Okay. Like, even as an alcoholic, I was doing rather well, you know, flying around Africa and hot air ballooning and doing all kinds of stuff.
The functional alcoholics and Coke takers, drug takers, you know.
Yeah. But I would go overboard and I would get arrested regularly, because I was raised in law enforcement. I was taught self-defense way early, all the way from like young till my dad said I had to pay for it. And that's when I stopped. But only that knowledge right there, I didn't use it right. And I hurt people, especially when I was drunk. And I don't remember. That's the worst part. And I did it one last time, and I woke up in the jail. They said I was going to get 30 years for attempted manslaughter with a vehicle. And I was sitting there like, whoa, you know, I didn't know what to think. I thought my world was over right then. And then they came in about 2 hours later, and I knew all the cops. My uncle's a cop. My dad's a cop. I can't remember my cop background. I was a Boy Scout cop. They called them Explorer Scouts. You know, I was even teaching cops and self-defense and handcuff and gun techniques and hand-to-hand and weapons, batons, all that stuff. I was an expert in all that stuff at a really young age. So, I mean, they all knew me, and the sheriff comes in and says, hey, we're letting you go. The DA says that the gang that you tried to run over, he thinks they'll get you and it'll be worse than any jail you ever was in, you know. So you better watch your ass, boy, like that. And they let me out, and I got out, and there's no phones, everything, you know, I had a pager, but so I was using a phone booth calling collect to everybody, come and get me from the jail, and everybody's telling me, you know, F you, dude, you know, this is the last time, you're on your own. Even my wife, she goes like, when you get home, I'm not gonna be here, you know, you're done, kid. So I ran out of change. I really ran out of everybody. Even my own family was telling me to, you know, piss off. And so I was sitting there all by myself, and all I did was say, if you're real, I can't stop. You know, I tried and tried and tried to stop, and I couldn't stop. You have to take it away from me and make me stop, you know, like take it away. That's the only way that I can stop. I didn't drink again. April 26, 1986. I'll never forget. And I mean, that's my biggest aha moment, was when I woke up the next day and I did not want to pop into that Jim Beam and, you know, whatever I had. And from then on, you know, I've been straight as an arrow and never missed it at all. You know, never even thought like, oh, that would be great to, you know, tie one on today or something. I never, he totally took it away from me.
That's incredible, because it's one of the hardest things, isn't it? Alcohol, yeah. Drugs.
It really is.
There's a lot to that, isn't there? And anybody can stop doing that and get over that is, you know, I have respect for them, because it's not easy.
Yeah.
You know, I get that. So,
well, you know what's funny is everybody's like, you're still an alcoholic for a long time, you know, like you're still, because nobody trusted me. Nobody believed me for like 5 years. I mean, it took more than that long to get them to not like him, you know, to, you know, where they were at, you know what I mean? And they didn't like forgive me the very first day or the very first year, second year. I mean, I had and after a while, I was trying to prove it for a while, but after a while, it was like, I'm just going to go on and just do my thing. I don't need what they think. And now I still am that way today. Like with the stories I just told you, people are going to say, what a bunch of crock, you know, and stuff like that. Fine. You know what? Fine. That it doesn't hurt me or affect me at all. You know, it doesn't change. It's not going to drive me to drink. I mean, I'll be fine. And I don't get worked up over that, and I forgive everybody, you know, like you got your own problems and you should be working on those instead of magnifying everyone else's.
Yeah. I think with alcoholism and stuff, it's just the ripple effect, isn't it, that it can have amongst your friends and your family. And it's just one of those legal drugs that is the worst legal drug you can ever think of.
You know what's the worst legal drug now? Texting,
yeah.
Man,
that is bad. Yeah, it can get into all sorts of trouble when you're texting, can't you?
Yeah, I've lost a few friends already from it, and they were the ones texting, and then they took out I know they didn't intend on killing anyone, but you know, they did. Same as alcohol, though, you know, they get too drunk and then they take out somebody, and
it's just can happen in a moment, can't it? Just in a second, and it's all over, unfortunately. Well, look, we've come up. Well, we've gone over nearly 2 hours, 1 hour 40 minutes. What's next then? You're doing these tapes, and what else are you working on?
I'm still going out after the Bigfoot, and I'm not trying to prove anything really. I'm not trying to prove Bigfoot, but only I enjoy what I'm doing, and I'm still disabled. I have a cane most of the time. I can't hike that good. And I don't really have anything to do. I can't work, so go out and fly the drone up and down the creeks, and get out in the outdoors and have a good time and help people where I can help people, and just keep doing that. Maybe I might get lucky and Bigfoot will step out and I get the $1 million picture, and then I could buy a new car or something. That's how I think anyways.
Find your equipment then, can't you?
Oh yeah, I'll get that FLIR, maybe a few of them in a big old bus and have them all over it.
Yeah. Well, when you get that $1 million picture, come back on the show and show.
Oh, I will. Yeah.
On your phone, you'll actually let us see. Alan, it's been great talking to you again. I enjoyed it the first time on the researchers report. I've enjoyed it even more this time, and definitely would like you to come back on the show at some point.
Anytime.
Brilliant. Everyone, I will go and put all of Alan's channels, just links in the description, so you can go and check him out. If you've enjoyed this interview, give us a like, press that like button, share the video, do whatever you want to do. And I'll see you on Wednesday on the researchers report. And until then, good night, everyone. Thanks, Alan.
Good night, you guys.